Welcome to Imagination and Co-Creation, the Midwest Chapter Medical Librarian Association Conference for 2025.
All right. Okay, well, why don't we take a breath and we will move on to our very special mystery guest coming up in just a moment.
The very little guy, so sometimes I gotta just take it very, very slow. But here we go. Let's see. Okay.
Oh, there he is.
So this is Spruce, and I am Andre. I am from the Raptor Center here at the University of Minnesota. The Raptor Center specializes in a lot of different birds that you're going to see, mostly predatory birds. So raptors are going to really specialize in using their feet, and Spruce is really paying attention to the screen right now because he can see everything going by. He's not too much of an iPad kid, so this is probably some good owl enrichment for him more than anything else. But Spruce is a little saw-whet. So he is essentially a very native species to Minnesota, in the Midwest in particular as well. He is still, as you would expect, a predator, but he also can be prey to other animals as well. I'm going to give him a little food to make sure he knows that he's doing okay right now. So sometimes what he'll do is he will just kind of stand very still, or he'll be a little robotic when he's moving around, which kids definitely say that too when I bring Spruce around a little bit. He just wants to make sure nothing's going to eat him more than anything else. So right now he's kind of just peeking around, making sure nothing crazy is going on. He doesn't do too many programs, so this is still good enrichment for him. But Spruce is with us and will stay with us here at the Raptor Center because he actually has bad eyesight, which is funny to think of that a little owl has bad eyesight. We don't exactly know how old he is. The crazy thing about these owls is many times, and a lot of birds in general, including raptors, when they're young, within the span of about 3 months, they will be full grown. So you can imagine like a 3-month-old human child being like my size. That's essentially how quickly they grow. So we know he's at least above 8 years old. Oh, he's going to do a little flash. He saw a little bit come up on the screen. He was like, oh my God, what is that? We don't exactly know how their eyesight works when it comes to screens. We can't really ask them or kind of see how their brain visualizes a little bit more, but their eyesight is very in depth. So owls, for instance, we are only seeing the smallest part of their eye. You can envision like an old light bulb, right? With the one that you just screw in. We're seeing the part that you actually screw in. We are not seeing the actual bulb. So their eyes take up about 75% of their entire skull more than anything else. It's so large, essentially, that if I were to look through his ear right now, which is funny because you can't really see his ear, it's just a little hole in the side of his head. If you were to look through his ear, you could actually see the back of his eye, which shows how large they really are. Being a saw-whet, they get the name because apparently they make a noise that is exactly, or I should say reminiscent of what it sounds like when you sharpen a saw on a whetstone. I have no idea if that's exactly what it sounds like. I've never sharpened a saw with a whetstone, but I can imagine that it sounds fairly similar. We only really hear it when he's a little bit more stressed or if he doesn't really know we're around, because like I said, he can be prey to other animals, especially other owls. So great horned owls, for instance, could easily eat this little guy. He only weighs about 90 grams. To put that in perspective, he weighs about as much as like a stick of butter minus a few tabs. So he's a really little guy. He's actually the smallest one we have here at the entire Raptor Center. But other than that, Spruce will be with us for the rest of his lifespan, just because if we do return him to the wild, he wouldn't be able to survive, unfortunately. So he is a very great ambassador bird when it comes to just showing off how well these guys hide, and also how numerous they are. We really didn't know how many saw-whets were really in Minnesota and many other states because they are very small. And if they're only really coming out closer at night, it's a little hard to find them, right? But we did come up with a pretty good idea where we could put up essentially like a volleyball net, play some noises that saw-whets make, such as, hey, I would like to make a nest with somebody else. And then when some saw-whets came flying by to see what would happen, they would get caught in the net. We could ban them, track them a little bit more, and just get a good count. And come to find out, they have extensive populations in and around Minneapolis and Minnesota, just because Again, we weren't exactly sure. So it does take some weird examples or some weird thought processes to really figure out how many of these guys there are, but it works out in the end. Any questions about Spruce, the Raptor Center, or anything else?
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you feeding Spruce right now?
So many times, and this is always funny, Spruce is, he's treated very well here. He has essentially a bit of a stomach issue where we think he gets some bacteria buildup, so he doesn't feel the best. So he gets very special food here. He is either getting mice, which are fairly clean for him, or he's getting quail. So sometimes I will give him like full on, like just a piece of like a quail breast, essentially. So it's very, very fancy for him. Today he's getting quite a bit of quail, so he's enjoying it to say the least. Which the only other bird that really gets this quail is our peregrine falcon, which is a bird-eating bird, so that one kind of makes sense.
I wanted to think that was a blueberry you were giving him, but I guess I was naive.
If only. It would be cute if he did eat a blueberry. In the wild, though, they're going to eat a lot of insects too. It's a little easier for us to get mice and chicken and quail than it is for us to catch like grasshoppers and crickets.
We have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
What kind of nests do they make?
Oh, that's a really good question. So a lot of times these guys are going to be in little hovels. So you can think just the little knots in trees that have started to kind of open up a bit more. And sometimes they will even steal nests. So let's say like a woodpecker makes a nest that is actually in a tree. If it's empty, or if a woodpecker has left for a little while, or even a squirrel, these guys will move in very quickly.
And
of course, if you would like to there's always a chance, there's never a guarantee, but you can always make little owl nesting boxes as well. They're very similar to birdhouses, just a little bit bigger for most times.
And how many eggs do they usually lay?
That's a really good question. So in the wild, you're looking at maybe 2 to 3. We know for sure that spruce is actually, I'm not sure if we do know if spruce is a male or not. We can't really tell unless either they lay an egg or if we send down their blood for genetic testing. It is very, very hard to actually tell if they're male or female. We actually have a great horned owl here who, because of his size, we thought he was a female for 22 years. And then he got some blood work. And so they sent a message up there like, hey, by the way, Lois is actually a guy. We're like, oh, well. So he's still Lois.
I love it. What's the typical lifespan of a saw-whet in the wild?
Yeah, typical lifespan is going to be about 8-9 years. Luckily with us, though, since we know he's at least above 8, I'm giving him his food. He has world-class healthcare right downstairs for free. So we can usually extend their lifespan about another 5 years, give or take. And a good example is we have a kestrel who is a little falcon. He is 11 years old. In the wild, they only live to be about 7 or 8. So he is geriatric, to say the least.
And what is his vocalizations sound like?
Ooh, I wish I could really do it. The best way I can kind of describe it, imagine if you take your thumb down like a comb, like a hair comb. That is almost exactly what it sounds like.
Fascinating.
You can maybe do that as well to figure it out.
Oh, and do you know more about what his or her actual eye condition is?
Yeah, so we think that it's primarily genetic. Even sometimes when I go to give him a little bit of food, he'll just miss. So we think it's not exactly like cataracts or anything along those lines. But when it comes to his actual vision, seeing close up, just not very well. Which many of these small owls actually just can't see very well when it's up close either.
Here's a question from the chat. Is he objectively the cutest owl, or does he just seem that way?
Oh, I would say so. Yeah. All the pictures we have of him at the Raptor Center, he always has these big doe eyes. So it's really hard not to think he's just a cute little guy, because that's exactly what he is. It's hard to think of him as like this voracious predator that is the fear of mice and crickets.
Is Spruce like, what's his social needs? I know he's in captivity at the Raptor Center, but like in the wild, does he like other spruces?
No, a lot of times, many of these owls are going to be solitary. They're never really going to join up with another owl until they're mating. And even then, they don't always mate for life either. If they believe that an owl is not pulling their weight in their relationship, they will leave them very quickly. So they definitely know what they want in a relationship, to say the least. And even here, he would much rather be on his own. So we have a nice fully, like his mew is essentially what we call it, his house where he lives. We have it covered in greenery, so even when guests are walking by, they kind of have to like look through a little bit, and it makes him feel like he's hidden more than anything else. He's doing fine right now. He's leaned forward a little bit, so I know he's a little nervous. But if he was like really nervous, he'd make himself really skinny, and he would just close his eyes, because if he can't see us, we can't see him, and it makes him feel better.
I can relate, Spruce. So adorable.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about the Raptor Center in general? Like, what's the
Yes.
mission of the Raptor
Love to.
Center?
So the Raptor Center was started in the early 70s. Essentially, it was started by two alumni of the University of Minnesota who just wanted to study more about raptors. Because back in the day, if there was an injured eagle and an injured owl, many times that was kind of it for them, right? They were injured and they were put down. We didn't really have any techniques as to how we can save them or how we can try to rehab them in any sense. Today, the Raptor Center is essentially one of the leading global institutions when it comes to raptor rehabilitation, because you can't really put a cast on an owl or an eagle, because one, they have feathers, so it's not going to be comfortable, and their bones are just hollow, so they're going to be different, right? So it took a lot of research to be able to figure out how can we actually help these birds out. Now we are seeing a plethora of animals, I should say raptors, come into our doors every single day. Last year we had over 1,105 raptors come into the Raptor Center. About 25% of them are able to be re-released just because extensive injuries many times for these birds, and they're very high strung as well, can be a bit of an issue. But this year we're already at 1,130. We didn't hit 1,000 last year until the beginning of November. We hit 1,000 this year at the middle of September. So we are flying along when it comes to bringing in these birds. We have about 28 ambassador animals. So 28 ambassador raptors like Spruce here, where we essentially, my job is like I wake up, I prep their food, we do training, and many times we go to either rural or urban areas to try to decrease biophobia. We want to teach kids like, these animals are amazing. We want to learn more about them and try to conserve them as well. So a lot of conservation messaging more than anything else. But yeah, that was kind of a quick rundown of the Raptor Center.
No, that's here's a question. How has avian flu impacted raptors?
Yeah, so avian influenza has had a very large impact on many raptor populations. Numbers wise, it's really hard to tell because the only way we can figure it out is we have to, let's say we get a bird in. If it doesn't show any symptoms, we won't test it because our tests actually have to be sent all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, to actually be fully tested out and made sure that it is a positive testing. So it's very hard to actually indicate within the animals. What we are seeing though, so we don't do a lot of research right now. We're much more of a data center. So like we provide data to many colleges, including the U of M, the Minnesota Zoo, for instance. But we are noticing that many eagles are actually coming in with antibodies for avian influenza. So they are starting to actually build up resistance to it, which is great. For us, and he's watching me itch my face. He didn't like that. He was like, nope, 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 nope. Don't like that you touched your face. He's a very, very little guy. So he's a little bit more high strung than others. Can you turn around? Nope, we're gonna stay this way now.
Oh, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, whatever's easier for you.
You do you, Spruce.
Yeah, for us, we have to be very careful because, we get in all these raptors downstairs that are very, could be exposed, could not be exposed. So we have to be very careful because if we get an infection within our ambassador birds, that could be a much bigger issue. So it's essentially like we're on 2 floors and there's a good quarantine between the 2 floors.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, this has just been delightful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing Spruce with us. This is my dream come true for this conference. I wanted Spruce. We got Spruce.
Yeah,
Life
that's
is
been great.
now. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the work
Yeah.
you do in the Raptor Center. I think everybody in the chat is unanimous. We love spruce. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Bye, Spruce. Have a great day.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank you. Aw, wasn't that the best? Oh my gosh. First Teddy, gonna make us cry, and now Spruce, also gonna make me cry. I'm getting verklempt, Liz.
Well, and
Very
again,
verklempt.
I said it in the chat, but I think that you should all know like how amazing it is that we actually got spruce because my daughter had a birthday party at the Raptor Center and we really wanted spruce, but like, oh, he doesn't come out too much. But then we got him and he was the cutest thing in the entire world. Like, see previous guest. But they, what did they say, Lisa? Like we wanted to at least get an owl. We had a few owl options, but it was all about who
Whoever
agreed
they
to come
can
out of there.
lure out of their enclosure. That's how they decide who's ready for a Zoomy. So
Yes,
I guess
exactly.
quail for spruce was the ticket.
Yeah, so I find I identify strongly with both, not wanting to be seen and needing to be lured out of my enclosure to go to work and things like that. So anyway, that was amazing and fun. Okay, awesome. All right, well, we are going to switch into our break and exhibitor time. Let me just do a little share here, and then Sarah will introduce our exhibitors here. Okay, take it away, Sarah.
I'm not even sure how to follow that. That was so adorable. But next, we're still very excited to move into our vendor showcase portion of this event. We have 4 fantastic exhibitors joining us today. We have Wolters Kluwer, Covidence, Visual DX, and Gideon, each with their own breakout room where you can learn more about their tools, ask questions, and see demonstrations. So in just a moment, we're going to open the breakout rooms. So you'll be able to choose which room to join, and you can move freely between each breakout room and visit as many vendors as you like. And then please be sure to check out our exhibit hall Padlet, and I'll put that link in the chat here in a bit. And also, if you don't see breakout rooms, we're happy to move you into a breakout room of your choice. Just message us in the chat. So I will open the breakout rooms now.
And we'll see you back here in 30 minutes at 10:45, 11:45 Central for our next session, which is our second paper session.